not sure how this will go. We'll get this thing started, I guess. But yeah, I'm excited for this episode on Crisis Protocol. What's up, everybody, and welcome to The Side Scheme, a podcast about everybody's favorite superhero card game, Marvel Champions. I'm your host, Banana Crapshoot, here once again to talk about some Marvel Champions. My co-host, Tommy of Titan, cannot join me tonight, so I scoured the cosmos, multiple timelines, multiple universes, for somebody to fill his shoes, and I found what I think are two I guess you'd call them rock stars in the Marvel Champions community. So first, I will introduce Kennedy Hawk of Marvel Champions Monthly. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing swell. I am rocking out.
Good. How's everything going at home and the kids?
Everything's going great. Got 2 more months of remote work while my wife does all the real work in the workforce. So, exciting times.
Yeah, and Wasp just came out, so we have a lot to talk about tonight. Also joining us from Parts Unknown, Vardane of Critical Encounters. How are you doing, Steve?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. And I think you guys just had a pretty big event for the LCG Con. You want to spend a few minutes talking about that right away?
Yeah, we just finished it might be the third one of these LCG Cons, at least the second one. It was on Discord, all virtual. We had a ton of people on, and Kennedy Hawk here, he made these amazing Kang level 3s, and we had a Return of the Kang event where we tried to defeat as many of these funny pop culture Kang versions that we could. We got part way there, but not quite all of them, right, Kennedy?
Yeah, I just checked, 31% done, so that's 31 out of 100 Kangs, 50 expert, 50 standard, so pretty good, I would say, for just a 3-day period over the weekend.
Yeah, and that's 31 different Kangs. I had a fun time playing Kang. It's impressive, too, even 31, since a Kang game is not a short game. So,
no.
Good time. I just want to say thank you to Mike Wandering Took, one of my co-hosts, but that's all on him. He did a ton of that. But he had a nice support staff there, some different people making bots and arranging Lord of the Rings events and Marvel events. So it was a fun time. And whenever the next one happens, I suggest that everybody join in. It's good fun. You get to meet people from the community. Everybody's really nice out there, and it's just a fun time. So there we go.
Cool. Overall, I think there's a pretty good community around Marvel Champions, so events like that are really cool to hear about. All right, so you guys, I'll give you guys a second each. I guess we'll start with you, Kennedy Hawk. You've probably fired more rope rockets than anyone when it comes to playing Hawkeye, so why don't you give us a few seconds to talk about Marvel Champions Monthly, what that is, what you do, where people can find you, that good stuff.
Yeah, so we are a not monthly podcast, even though monthly is in our name, so I apologize for that. We had started out with monthly episodes, and then we went to bi-weekly episodes, and now we put something out almost weekly. So if you don't like that, be sure to unsubscribe, and if you do, be sure to subscribe. But we do all sorts of Marvel Champions content. So we have every other week the full cast gets together and records some sort of topical episode, whether it's a recent expansion or a not-so-recent expansion. But then we have a couple spin-off shows where we do live gameplay over audio. We do comic book reading and just chit-chatting about card games in general. So we've got a ton of stuff going on. The latest and greatest thing we have going on is a custom campaign where we're putting out sort of a OP campaign scenario once a month. So the January missions are out there. If you hop to mcm-podcast.com, you can find them. And the February missions are coming pretty soon because it's almost the end of January. So all sorts of stuff, just celebrating this awesome game.
Cool. And Steve, you want to tell us a little bit about your villainous schemes over at Critical Encounters?
Sure. We talk about the only important part of the game, the villains and the encounter sets. We take a look at the theme. We usually do half the show is talking about who the villain is or who the minions are. Then we'll take a look at the cards and how they play. tomorrow, because this show will come out tonight, correct?
Yeah, probably. I mean, there's some leeway.
All right, well, Tuesday the 26th will be our 50th episode. Extravaganza will be coming out. So we're going to do a little look back. We've got a community poll coming out that people answer stuff, so we go through that. We talk about some new segments we're going to have. So we're gonna change things up a little bit. We're gonna keep our normal format, but we're gonna try to slot in a couple different things. So if you check our 50th out, we'll talk about what we're gonna be doing in the future for Volume 2, our second year. Cool. And that's Critical Encounters. You can just Google us or check your podcatcher. We're on there.
And I'll have links to your guys' websites in the show notes. But I'm pretty sure everybody listening to us knows who you guys are. But anyways, I guess we'll get into...
Versa,
What's that?
I said vice versa, too.
Yeah.
I hope.
Well, if you go to, the Podbean or whatever, it looks like the same people also, they listen to all of us, it seems like. Wasp just came out officially for most of us. So I think we would dive right into some, just real quick. We won't do a deep dive, but just some hot takes. If you got some initial thoughts, impressions, cool plays, stuff like that. So, Steve, I know you said you haven't actually gotten a chance to play any games yet because you got the pack today.
Yeah, I just got the pack today. But yeah, I think she looks pretty cool. I like the fact that you can spread her damage out or her thwart out, right? That seems pretty neat, where you can kind of divide it up. I think that's going to make for some fun, efficient plays. And it can pick this up and put one here. But then some of her attack cards look pretty sweet too. So I'm excited to get her on the table and try out some of these villains with her.
Dan, what are your hot takes on the Wasp?
Yeah, so just like Steve said, any stat buffs you can get on Wasp is going to be awesome, because in giant form you can spread that damage and thwarting around to wherever you need it. I think a lot of people are saying that she doesn't have a lot of nuance in her design and she's not very complex, but I think that people are not quite jumping on the whole bandwagon with her theme. I think what you want to do is spread out a bunch of damage and thwarting so that you can kill things when you flip to tiny form. So you spread out a bunch of damage, trigger her ability in tiny form when you flip later. One thing that's pretty awesome with Wasp is she has one of the highest ceilings for attacks in a hero kit. If you just look at the 15 cards from her hero kit, with her 3 pinpoint strikes, she can get to 24 points of damage, and with her 2 Wasp stings, that's 10 more. So she's got 34 points of damage just in her attack events in her kit. There's very few heroes that have that much damage and still have, a hand size of 5. So I think she's pretty up there in the ability to beat people down sort of regime. She's no Ant-Man where you flip and get everything for free, but she's still an efficient hero, and she focuses more on efficiency than just, getting everything for free. So, good hero.
Yeah, I think... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, she comes with aggression, but I think she's going to be fun in protection too, because you can get retaliate, you can prevent damage, right? So she's got some cards like that built in too, and then she'll be able to deal the damage out while you use your protection cards to keep her healthy and still pile on with, like Kennedy said, with the pinpoint strikes and the Wasp stings. I want to give her a try with that too. Protection seems like it could be fun.
That's gross. I can't believe you just said that on a podcast that includes Kennedy Hawk.
Yeah, I'm leaving. This is done.
Hawkeye sucks.
Well, I was just gonna say, I kind of disagree. I think she's more nuanced than Ant-Man, because with him, he's just, you basically flip and win. You don't want to flip all the time with Wasp. You want to be you got to plan it out more. I think she's more nuanced and has a deeper level of gameplay than what Ant-Man has. So I kind of would disagree with anyone that says she doesn't have any nuance. But
100%. I think she's all about the long game and making sure you don't waste any overkill damage or over thwarting, and she just rocks at it. So that's cool.
Yeah, and she has some good cards, Into the Fray is a cool aggression card that I'm happy to see. surprise attack, like Miss Marvel aggression is just loving that. But yeah, she has some cool cards and got some Moon Knight artwork, so I'm pretty excited about that.
What's your favorite card from her set that's not a hero card, like one of the aspect or basic cards?
It's probably Into the Fray, just because I like playing Thor so much, so like being able to overkill, like a minion and remove 5 threat, and then I can also play Moment of Triumph at the same time, so I can heal 5, remove 5 threat, and kill something.
I think mine is Beetle, her nemesis minion.
Get out of here.
Get out.
Yeah. It's got guard, and when you kill it, you have to decide if you want to really kill it or not. But that sounds like fun.
What about you? What's your favorite non-hero card?
I really like Athletic Conditioning. I know that's kind of boring, 1 cost, basic event, but it's a hero action. Discard 1 stun or confuse status from your hero. This card saves those heroes that just get nerfed by stun, like Thor and She-Hulk, where they can't do all their readying and attacking multiple times per turn. Just when stun shuts your hero down, this is the solution, and it's great that it's a basic card.
Yeah, I agree. I also think Spider-Man and Ironheart are ridiculously strong.
Allies.
For their cause.
Those are just a tier above the rest of the world.
Right.
The other one I do like is Surprise Attack. When you change form, deal 3 damage to an enemy, 4 if you use a physical resource. So that's going to be fun, both not just in Wasp, but also in Ant-Man, also in Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, anyone who flips all the time. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So. It's cheap, one resource for 4 damage. So
very cheap.
Yeah.
Where are you guys at on the Wasp ally, the Janet ally? Nothing.
So she's different than the Ant-Man ally, right? Like, he's just straight up however many resources you pay extra, he gets the tokens. You have to use energy for her, which makes her a little more limiting. I still think could be fun, but it's going to be a little harder to do. Might be better for decks like Thor, who's just generating energy, or Captain Marvel, who's got energy to spare. So
yeah, a little more deck dependent than Ant-Man, and only a maximum of 3 counters, so you can't pump 4 resources into her. I wish she had energy resources herself, so if you were trying to stack a deck with energy resources like Iron Man or whoever, you wouldn't have this mental that's going to discard your Hulk accidentally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
I mean, Iron Man, at least she helps you go aerial, but yeah.
Theme win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I don't really have anything else.
How about the reprints? What do you guys think? Quinn Carrier, the 3 resources. I mean, there's not that many reprints, right? What do you think?
I think Quinn Carrier is big. People have been asking for that one because we've only gotten 1 of them so far in Black Widow.
Mm-hmm.
I think her deck is a little resource heavy. Like the 3 basic resources and the 2 power of All of Us and the 2 power of Aggression and the 2 Pim particles. I mean, you're looking at 9 resources in her 40 card pre-built deck. But her deck's really expensive, so maybe it works out.
Yeah. Her pre-con is pretty expensive.
Well, yeah, the Pims are reprints too. That's right.
Yeah,
I think that makes sense, though. That's kind of cool, though. Yeah, Swarm Tactics, of course. So.
Yeah. All right. I don't have anything else to hit on Wasp. I just wanted to spend a few minutes since she just came out. So if you guys don't have anything else, we will move on to what I will want to call the new player Extravaganza. So this is going to focus on new players who know a bunch of new people have gotten into the game with the holidays. Lots of questions you see on Discord and Facebook all the time, so I wanted to do a new player-focused episode. I think I got 2 great guests here to help me out with that. So the first part of it is going to be like a game overview, elevator pitch. So, Steve, I'm going to give this to you. You got 2 minutes to explain Marvel Champions to somebody how would you go about doing that?
Marvel Champions is a game where you get to be the heroes in the Marvel Universe and lay waste to the villains most of the time. It's a fast-paced game. It's a fun game. I think it can be nuanced. Has good deck building, but it doesn't require you to be the hardcore gamer who that's all you do. You don't need a net deck. You don't need to dig in and find the best decks to play in order to have a good time and to have a good shot at winning. And you get to be Ant-Man and smush stuff, or be Cap and throw your shield around. Overall, I think it is exactly what they want it to be, a game that you are gonna have bring to the table, sit down, have some fun with some friends, and really feel like you get to you get to be the heroes. So, and if you are a fan of Lord of the Rings or Arkham Horror, this is a different style game than those. So it's not just a reskin, it's not a repeat. You get to have 3 different experiences for their 3 different co-op games. There you go.
Sounds good. You got anything to add to that, Mr. Hawk?
Yeah, I can do a real quick one. I think Marvel Champions is a cooperative living card game for 1 to 4 players. You're going to really embody a specific hero from the Marvel Universe facing off against some sort of villain. The best thing about this game, like Steve mentioned, is it caters to all sorts of needs for deck building, from people that don't want to deck build at all to people that want to tinker with their decks for hours late into the night like me. And you can bring those 2 people to the same game, the same table, and they're both going to enjoy it. And it's probably the most streamlined of the 3 cooperative LCGs by Fantasy Flight Games, so it's a great gateway game. If you have some non-gamer friends or maybe some casual gamer friends, this could be a great segue into some really fun deck building and card crafting with them.
Cool. Love it. I think those are good. I really don't have anything else to add. I would just say it's easily accessible, easily customizable, and it's not a huge time commitment either. Would be my 3 things I would add. All right, so the next thing is where to start. What do I buy? I just got the core set for Christmas. What is next?
Yeah, I think the next thing you buy, if you have 2 options, do you want a few more heroes? You want to try the same scenarios with different heroes? Or do you want to try new scenarios? So if you want to try new scenarios, you go buy Red Skull. You get 2 heroes plus the whole campaign, right? All those scenarios. Was it 5 scenarios? You've got a lot more gameplay. Or maybe you just want a Captain America, you want a Thor. You could buy a couple of those and then go buy maybe an individual pack. But if you're looking for bang for your buck, grab Red Skull. Then you work your way through the hero packs and you pick up a scenario, Green Goblin, that sort of Kang, that sort of thing. Once you've tired of the villains that you have.
Right. I had written an article about this a while ago, like a buyer's guide that I'm updating as packs come out. First, obviously, it was the core set, and then I went based on like value and like replayability. So the first recommended thing was the Red Skull box because you get 2 heroes with pre-made decks. You get the 5 villains and 4 modular sets. And then next I had Green Goblin because you get 2 scenarios. And the modular sets that came with that was 4 modular sets. So like that's good value, for $20. And then I think I had Kang next, and then I started to go into some heroes. But really, my recommendation would be the Red Skull box, and then if you want more heroes, whatever heroes look fun to you, is what I would recommend.
Yeah,
go for it.
I was gonna say the other option too is when you go to look at a hero pack. Maybe you're going because of a hero, right? Oh, I want Miss Marvel, or I really like Hulk or something like that. But the other option, and I haven't heard many people say this, is maybe you have an aspect that you like and you really just are into aggression. So buy that hero who comes with aggression, because then you're going to have more aggression cards. So that's a kind of a different, I think I like this, so get more of that. Do it that way too.
I shouldn't have told you to go for it. That was my answer. So.
Oh, gotcha.
Stolen by a villain.
Sniped. Quick strike.
What I was going to say is the first thing you should do is play the core set, because I think I've played every FFG living card game from the core set at least, and this is one of the most repeatable, valued core sets, right? You've got 3 villains in the core set and 5 modular sets, so that's 15 different scenarios you can set up. On top of that, there's 5 different heroes you can take up against it with different aspect pairings, so you could play with this core set for a long time. But go through, play through the core set, use each of the aspects at least once. And at that point, decide which aspect you think, either suits your playstyle or really doesn't suit your playstyle and you need more options for. I think a lot of people found protection a little bit lacking in the core set. It was really hard to run solo protection. So both Miss Marvel and Doctor Strange and the upcoming Quicksilver pack all contain protection cards. So if you go ahead and buy Red Skull, it actually comes with no protection cards. So if green is your favorite aspect and you want more cards, or if green is your least favorite and you want more cards so that you can not hate it as much as I do, go buy one of those protection packs so you can augment that aspect, which is another way to do it. So I think, obviously, buy heroes that you like, right? If you're the biggest Captain America fanboy in the world, just go get Captain America. It makes sense. But like Steve just mentioned, play through that core set, try all the aspects, and then figure out if you want to just enhance and focus on one aspect, or if you want to shore up those ones that weren't as exciting for you and give yourself more options.
Right, definitely agree. I mean, just the core set is the first time they've released a core set that you didn't have to buy multiple of to be able to, for 4 people to all play together. So, I mean, use that to your advantage, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, actually. Having played the other 2 cooperative LCGs, getting 4 players, fully functioning 4 players, is great. It's great. It's great for the new players. You could just buy the core and play that, treat it like a board game, put it back on the shelf, and never have to buy another piece of Marvel Champions again and still have a good time. I think that's a mistake. I think you should go buy more because it's a great game. But not needing a second core, not feeling like, oh, I didn't get a 3 of this pretty basic card was a big hit, a big home run for FFG on that. And hopefully that's why we're seeing an uptick of more players. So.
And it's important to note those hero packs, like the Captain America hero pack, that comes with everything you need to play as Captain America. It doesn't come with a villain to fight, so you'll need the core set to be able to play as Captain America. You need something to fight. But if you and your friend are going to the store and they're going to pick up their hero that they want to play, they can pick up one of those packs, and that's all they need to be able to play with you if you have a core set. With the other cooperative LCGs, a lot of times you wanted to get more than one core set. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have 2 core sets of Lord of the Rings and Arkham Horror, and at one point I found the missing cards for Lord of the Rings on eBay and got them so that I have the 3 ofs. Like back when LCG was a new thing and people were trying to figure out that secondary market, people are trying to sell off bits and pieces. That's not a thing you have to do. You don't have to try to go get a second core. You don't have to worry about filling in a slot. So,
I mean, I guess the only reason I could see getting a second core set is if you wanted a second copy of the standard and expert sets, because the only way to get those is the core set. But other than that, there's really no reason to get another core set.
Yeah.
I would agree. I got 2 right away because there's 2 local stores that were supporting the game, and I wanted to convince both of them to have a launch event. And at first it was nice because I could have multiple decks built and I didn't have to deconstruct them and tinker with them. I could just pick them up and take them to the store or whatever. But a lot of the hero packs have reprints in them of some of those basic staples. So the cards that I thought I was getting value out of by having multiple copies of, I now have way too many copies of just by buying all the hero packs. So I think 1 core is the right answer. If you're really into custom content and you want to sleeve custom cards in front of something else, a second core might make sense. But unlike the other LCGs, I think everybody agrees, 1 core and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so I think we'll move into some deck building. A lot of players, it seems, especially see it on Facebook, it's like are new to the concept of deck building. They've played with the pre-cons mostly, and they want to look into getting into deck building. So some quick deck building tips. Kennedy Hawk, if you want to start with this one.
Yeah, so when you build a deck in Marvel Champions, the first thing you're going to do is pick a hero. So you could play as She-Hulk, you could play as Spider-Man. You're going to get a hero card, and they come with 15 attached cards, their signature kit or their hero kit. So you're always going to include these 15 She-Hulk cards with She-Hulk. You can read through those cards and kind of see what her strategy is. So with She-Hulk, you're trying to sustain damage so you can throw it back at the enemy big time, and you're trying to chain a bunch of attacks together with your hero. So then you pick one of the 4 aspects, which I think we'll go through later in this episode, but there's 4 different sort of like color spheres, like in Magic or Lord of the Rings, that you can pair a hero with. So you can make a Justice She-Hulk deck, or an Aggression She-Hulk deck, or a Protection She-Hulk deck, or a Leadership She-Hulk deck. So you'll pick one of those aspects, and you can include 25 cards from those aspects and basic cards. You can only include 3 copies of any card and 1 copy of a card that has the unique symbol. So if you want to include Nick Fury in your deck, you can't play multiple Nick Furies, so you're only going to get to put 1 in your deck. Even if there was eventually multiple versions of him, you could only put 1 in. There's like a uniqueness rule. So my deck building tips are pick a hero, and then just like I said with aspects earlier, either decide that you want to shore up that hero's weakness. Like with She-Hulk, she has to flip a lot, so you need to add some thwarting potential. And you can do that and pick an aspect and cards that complement your hero by completing their weakness to make them nice and well-rounded. That works really well for solo. In multiplayer, you can really focus on one thing. So instead, you can pick an aspect that really highlights their strength. So with She-Hulk, you can bring things that buff her attack, things that make sure she gets to attack every round. And those are sort of 2 different trails you can take in deck building.
Cool. Good stuff. You got anything to add to that, Steve?
Yeah, so with the uniqueness rule, there's a couple tricks. What makes a card unique? It's this little weird symbol in front of their name. That's something that a lot of new players might miss. It doesn't say on the card unique. It doesn't say limit 1 per deck or 1 per player. It just has this little star symbol next to the word wasp or next to Hawkeye or whatever it is. That's the uniqueness. So if it has that symbol, only 1 in your deck, and only 1 on the table at a time. So if you're building a deck with with your friend and they put in a Nick Fury and you put in a Nick Fury, you're gonna have to pay attention to that when it comes out. Now, some of these cards have a subtitle. They might have a alter ego like Nadia Van Dyne, or they might say Hawkeye Kate Bishop. Well, Hawkeye Kate Bishop and Hawkeye Clint Barton are 2 different characters, so they're not the same Hawkeye, so they are not the same. That uniqueness rule does not apply to them, to each other at least. So that's something a new player will miss. The other thing that you have to pay attention to is sometimes a card will say max 1 per deck or max 2 per deck. So you have to, when you're building your deck, you got to look for that, right? Do I have 2 power-ofs in my deck already? I cannot add a 3rd, even if add can put in 3 of everything else. So Power of Aggression says max 2 per deck. Even though it's not unique, it does have deck building restrictions on it.
Right. I guess the only thing I would really add to like a quick deck building thing is, I guess decide if you want to, like if you're just playing around to have fun, or if like you're trying to build like something super optimized. If you're just trying to play for fun, like just do whatever you want. Go over 40 cards. It don't really matter. It's just you. If you're just getting into it, the best way to learn is to do it. So build that deck, see what works, what doesn't work. I would recommend when you build your deck and you play it, maybe a card you don't use 2 or 3 games, maybe take that out and sub it in with something else to see what you use and what you don't use, and go from there.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. You must have 40 cards in your deck, but you could go all the way to 50. And there are times when 50 makes sense. Maybe Ultron, he's stealing all your cards, or Kang takes 8 of them away, so you're already down to 42. I don't always go right to 40. I might go 41, 42. you know what I mean, 44 sometimes, and the decks they still move right along.
Yeah, and your hero card does not count against that 40. I've seen that question a lot where people bring 39 cards plus their hero. Your hero is not one of your 40 cards, so important to know.
Yeah, it's the cards included in your player deck. The identity is separate from that.
Yeah, and you're picking one aspect plus basic, and basic is not an aspect. It's just a generic set of cards that anyone can play with. Unless you get that special Spider-Woman deck that can have 2 aspects, and that one has to have 2 aspects, you're just picking one. So you're going to do leadership, put all the other justice, aggression, and protection cards off to the side, and just focus looking at those leadership cards. It makes deck building a lot easier because you don't have the entire card pool you have to build with. You're just looking at some. Just those and the basics. So.
And I will bring up, since you brought up Spider-Woman, I saw this, I think, just today on the Facebook group. Somebody asked, why can't you use the aspect cards that are part of her 15, like somewhere else? And it's because those 15 cards are her hero kit. Those cards can't be used anywhere else but with her. So even though they're technically aspect cards, they're listed like that to make her ability work. That's like her whole hook there. You can't take out like pheromones and put it in any other leadership deck.
Right. Yeah, they trigger her ability, and you can use the power of cards to pay for them.
Right.
I can't remember what they cost, so that might not be efficient, but it's still doable.
I think they're all 2 or 3. I think.
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
All right. So if you guys don't have anything else on quick deck building tips, we can move right along here.
One thing. If you are afraid of deck building, there's an awesome website for it. We'll probably mention it again later, but marvelcdb.com. People can post decks or build decks there and publish them. So go there, look at the popular decks. People are not going to be worried about net decking in this game. It's cooperative. Like, I put decks up there hoping people will net deck and tell me how to make them better. So go try out those popular decks. They're popular for a reason, and then figure out how it fits you best, because that's one of the best ways to learn how to deck build. So no shame in net decking in this game. In fact, a lot of the people on that popular list net deck each other, and we love it. So
yeah, and I will say, for people looking at Marvel, the database for the first time, the people that I've seen their decks that I would like recommend them being like their stuff's always solid is like Brian V, Drew, and Kennedy Hawk, of course. Here, like the decks are always solid and they always play really well. Just throwing that out there. All right, aspect overview. I guess we're gonna skip leadership or protection, right? Because Americano's not here. So we'll go, if you want to start with leadership.
Yeah, we can do that, and then we can just ignore the other 3, because leadership is the best aspect in the game, and I'll tell you why. So leadership it has kind of 2 focuses, but the main focus is on allies. And in this game, allies are one of the most powerful card types. A lot of times, your hero event cards and things like that seem really powerful because they do a ton of damage and they remove a lot of threat. But they're a one-shot deal. You play them, they go to your discard pile. In this game, you can bring like team-up characters with you, or allies, or sidekicks, whatever you want to call them, and you can bring up to 3 in play. Those allies can attack and thwart just like a hero can, and they can even defend. They don't have a defense stat to reduce villain damage, but they can basically reduce the damage from getting to your hero, which is one of your loss conditions. So by playing an ally, they can do everything the other aspects can do. They can thwart just like a justice player, they can attack just like an aggression player, and they can defend like a protection player, all in one card. So the best way to use those allies is going to be to use up their attacks and thwarts. They're going to take a little bit of damage each time they expend that energy to do so. Use that until they have 1 hit point remaining, and then just throw them in front of the villain like they're hot garbage, because they're going to come back through your deck and you're going to use them again. So leadership is all about getting allies in play. It has ways to make it so you can have even more allies in play. It has ways to turn your allies into resources through events and things like that. So if you like the idea of taking some hero and having them lead a team of other heroes to victory, even if it means they're taking the backseat and making sure that other characters can live, you got the ultimate support role in leadership.
Nice.
Drop mic. We can be done. Next segment.
The most heroic thing a hero can do is tell their friend, "Go over there, die for me." I love that leadership.
Hey, take this hit. I think thematically it's supposed to be like them heroically jumping in front of, Ultron shooting you with blasts of whatever energy, But it's weird that the player, is like, hey, I'm going to defend, But it's Maria Hill jumping in front of Captain America, not Captain America ordering Maria Hill to stand in front of him.
Yeah, it's really awkward when Ant-Man shoves his daughter in front of a rhino charge because he doesn't want to get hit by it. You feel a little bit bad as a parent, but you get over it when you take less damage, and it's okay.
Sorry, you can just make the call. She'll come back. All right, I'll hit aggression. Aggression is very straightforward. Do you like smashing things in the face as hard as you can? Then aggression is for you. That's it. That's all I got. Aggression has this stuff to augment your damage. There's some cool events that can heal you when you deal more damage than you need to. And now there's cool stuff that remove threat too. So aggression is well-rounded, face-smashing fun. That's all I got.
Oh, one thing to mention. For leadership, screw this aggression stuff. If you want more leadership cards, the boxes to buy are Captain America, Rise of Red Skull, and Ant-Man. Right, so for aggression, what are the packs that come with aggression cards?
The packs that come with aggression are Thor, Hulk, Rise of Red Skull, Spider-Woman has some aggression, and Wasp. I think that's it. Steve, I'll let you pick whatever aspect you want to touch on to give us a quick overview.
Sure, justice. Yellow. Justice is that aspect that you use so that you
don't have to play protection.
Lose. Yeah. Justice removes threat from the main scheme and the side scheme. It gets those side schemes that come out can really give you a hard time, make your day just not fun. So Justice gets rid of that. It has some interesting things going on for it now. When you can clear the side schemes, there's attachments that you can put on them so that you're drawing cards or you're doing damage. It has some cards that let you thwart, let you confuse, I meant to say. And it's got some fun allies that when they come out, you can go fetch some other cards, like Coulson. But for the most part, that aspect is going to make sure that the villains can't complete their schemes so that you can stay in the game longer. It helps you when you're an alter ego. When you're an alter ego, you're putting more threat out because the villain is scheming, and it's just going to counter that. Hopefully you're playing this multiplayer, giving your teammates time to use their aggression or leadership cards to punch the villain in the face and win the game for you. So you're buying time. It's clock management. It's it's handling the threat and removing the side schemes. It might not be as glorious as aggression, taking out the minions, or leadership, defending all the damage that's coming at you with your sacrificed Cassie Langs, but it keeps that game, keeps you in the game. That's Justice.
And do you know off the top of your head what additional product comes with Justice cards?
Black Widow, Red Skull. I don't.
That's it.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
It's probably the least developed at this point too. So.
Yeah. I'll take the bullet. I'll do protection. Nobody else wants to. Protection, we kid, but it's pretty important sometimes. It's the deck you play to defend your friends. So if you don't want to use allies to jump in front of people, you can heal people. It's got lots of healing cards. Some of them aren't very good, like Second Wind. Don't really like it, but Med Team's strong. It's got cool stuff like Energy Barrier to block and reflect damage back. Has some cool cards that allow you to buff your defense. And then if you don't want to take any damage, you can ready, so you can block for multiple heroes in a turn.
Protection offers the player a way to deal damage to the villain during the villain's turn a lot of the times. Counter punch, right? preemptive strike, energy barriers, electrostatic armor. Maybe if your hero has retaliate, you want to be defending. So it offers a different timing to the game.
Yeah, that's fair. It's kind of a support focused role, protecting your team is what it's about.
Yep.
And the hero packs that come with protection are Doctor Strange, Miss Marvel, and Quicksilver, which comes out in like 2 weeks in the US. Will be protection.
One cool thing protection does, we kind of glossed over this, there's 2 ways you can lose the game. The villain can kill you via damage. Protection helps with that. The villain can win by scheming a bunch and progressing their agenda or their main scheme. And at the end of every turn, depending on what form you're in, the villain's either going to attack or scheme. So if you have to jump into your alter ego a lot and heal, you're going to have a lot of scheme to have to deal with. So protection's really good at mitigating threat onto the main scheme because they can just sustain hero form for a long time. So like you said, Justice is really good at slowing down the villain and giving you a lot of time. So is Protection, because it shores up sort of both of the loss conditions. Even if it doesn't have a lot of firepower to get to your victory, it can give you enough time to get there. Gross. Cool.
Yeah, that's true, right? Justice is a long game because you're gonna be maybe you're flipping, you're getting rid of threat, so you're staying in the game a while. Protection is preventing the damage or healing the damage by letting you deal with the villain in a smaller amounts. Aggression is like a race, right? Can I knock this guy down before he threats out or he just kills me outright? And then leadership does a little bit of everything, and can kind of play into either way, I think. So, do you want to? Are you in it for the sprint or the marathon? I think helps you decide on your aspect in say a solo game.
Right. And I was say protection. Protection has ways to like stun the villain, which is very helpful also in damage prevention and threat prevention because it allows everyone to stay in hero form longer. Just throwing that out.
Yeah, and in multiplayer, there's no reason you have to play all 4 aspects if you're playing with 4 characters. You can all play aggression if you want and really race that villain down. You can all play protection, and we'll see you like in the morning when your game is done, either way. But you don't have to. You can double up on aspects wherever you want. You could do 2 protection, 2 leadership, protection, a justice, and 2 aggression. Any combination works.
Yep. And it's all fun. We jest. You guys have anything else on aspects, or can we move on? Forward? All right. Common gameplay errors. So stuff you see people ask questions about that they don't know or that they screw up in their first, couple games.
I have one that I've noticed a lot, and I think this happens from players who have played some other card game. Maybe they're not big gamers, but they've played something. They played a little Magic, they played some other LCG, whatever, competitive games. Is a lot of cards have an ability on them, a hero, like Iron Man. He has a futurist ability that lets him go dig through his deck for cards. It doesn't say exhaust on the card. That's not a cost of it. So you can use it without exhausting. You can also use it if you're exhausted. Right? If it doesn't have a cost before the little arrow that tells you that you have to exhaust this card to use it, you can use it. It doesn't, use it as many times as you want. There's no indicator at the end. Usually they say limit once per turn or limit once per phase. But I've seen that a lot. Oh, I didn't realize that this card, I didn't have to exhaust to use this card, or I could use this card if it's already exhausted. So that's a big mistake I've seen new players make, and that's just maybe from having some other game that required the card to always exhaust. That's not a rule book rule. It's not something that's out there automatically that you have to worry about. Just whatever it says on the card, there you go.
That's a good one. And to piggyback off that, similarly is like playing events that have the attack or thwart like identifier in parentheses after it. You don't have to exhaust to play those cards just because they say attack or thwart. When you exhaust to attack or thwart, that is using the basic power on your card, which is the number on your card that says like 2 THW, 2 ATK. That is what you have to exhaust to use the basic power. You can be exhausted and play a thwart event or an attack event. Or defense. You can be
exhausted and flip too, right? So, I mean,
yeah.
Yep. If something requires you to exhaust to do it, it will say that on the card. So it'll say something like exhaust your hero and then do this. The only thing you have to exhaust for naturally is your basic attack, your basic thwart, or your basic defense.
Or recover.
Who does that?
Who knows?
Not me. I just play.
One thing I've seen a lot of people trip up on is there's very distinct language between revealed, flipped, and put into play. And this is all dealing with encounter cards. So during the encounter phase... Sorry about that. During the encounter phase, the villain is going to attack you or thwart against you, and they're going to get a boost card. That's a face-down encounter card. You're going to flip that card. So if something says when an encounter card is flipped, that's what it means for like canceling a card that is flipped. If something says when revealed, there's going to be a point in the villain phase after you defend this attack or deal with this scheming. You're going to get dealt a face-down encounter card. Those are the cards that you reveal. So if something says when revealed, it's only going to go off if it's flipped during one of those when revealed portions of the villain phase. Some enemies, like Claw, I think, has a lot of abilities that are like discard cards from the encounter deck and then put a minion into play. If that minion has a when revealed text, you don't have to resolve it because they have not been revealed, they've just been put into play. So flipped versus when revealed versus put into play are very like distinct things that an encounter card can do, and they either make the game a lot easier or a lot harder depending on which way you play it.
Right. And another thing, I have another piggyback. When you're dealing with encounter cards, like when you're playing with the hero deck and you run out of deck and you shuffle back up, the penalty for that is you being dealt an encounter card. You only reveal that during the villain phase, during the step where you reveal encounter cards. So that encounter card that you get dealt in the player phase just sits there and chills until the villain phase, until at the point you are revealing encounter cards during that step.
Yeah, and you will reveal all of the encounter cards you get. You could be dealt, like you could be dealt an encounter card that forces you to run out of cards in your deck, so you're dealt another encounter card during the villain's phase, during that same step. You're going to reveal that next encounter card that you dealt because you're still in that part of the phase. So that can get you too.
Yeah, another reason that the when revealed versus put into play can be important. There's a lot of keywords in this game, like the keyword quick strike on a minion or villain means when this card engages you, it immediately attacks your hero. So that's only going to attack you if you're in hero form. If you're an alter ego, you get to ignore it. And that's when they engage you. So whether that minion was put into play or revealed, that's going to trigger. There's another keyword, insight. So some minions have insight 1. What insight means is when revealed, put one threat in the main scheme. So if that minion is put into play by some effect, you get to ignore the keyword. So the reminder text isn't always right on those keywords, so definitely consult the rules reference guide to know what exactly that keyword does. But eventually you'll just know this one does this one does that, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, that's a good point. The rules reference guide that comes with the core set, depending on your printing, is already out of date. Right? The most recent one is March 23rd, 2020. You can go to the FFG page, you can go to Products, Marvel Champions, the card game, and you can scroll down and find a rules section. You can look up a PDF version of the Learn to Play guide or the rules reference. Even the Rise of Red Skull rulebook is in there, and that'll give you the most current ruling, the most current information, at least as of March of last year. So it's important to take a look at that too. But if you just want to use the one that came in your core set, just use the one that came in your core set. And just know there's a newer one out there.
And there's some big changes in the new one.
Yeah.
Because they changed like how defense events work and stuff.
Yeah, that was I was going to piggyback right there. So we're on Rules Reference Guide 1.3. There's like a lot of changes where it's just verbiage, where if you do what naturally makes sense on the card, you're going to do the right thing. But there's 2 to 3 big changes in the rules reference guide. One's not even in there yet, and it's just a pain in my side. But the other 2 are in there already, and one of them is probably going to be adjusted again. So the first one is you. A lot of cards refer to you, like Call of Your Hero says, after you defeat a minion, do this thing. You has changed definitions twice in the RRG, and it's been hinted that it's going to change again. So right now in the RRG, I believe it says you is considered to be anything like the player controls on the field. But the implied answer has been that you is soon going to be your identity. So allies will no longer count as being you, which kind of makes sense. So make sure to read the you entry in the RRG. Depending on when you listen to this episode and if there's a new RRG out, the definition of that might change. Another one is defend or defense. You mentioned those attack and thwart tags in an event. An event might say hero action, and then in parentheses it says thwart. That means this counts as a thwart. So if a villain can cancel your thwarting, they're going to cancel that action somehow. Defense doesn't work that way anymore. It did in the original RRG, and when you played a card that had defend in parentheses, it counted as a defense. Now, what that parentheses defend means is you can only play this when you are the target of an attack. So that's either the villain or minion attacking you directly, or you can defend as a hero or have one of your allies to defend to redirect the attack so that you become the target. But cards like Shield Block and Backflip that are defense events can now only be played if you are the target of an attack. And that also means if you flip a Treachery card that says you take 6 damage, you can't use defense events to defend that because you're not being attacked. You're just taking damage directly from an event. So that's a weird distinction in the RRG.
I'm glad you tackled both you and defense. Thank you.
Yeah. That's funny. I had one I wanted to hit and I lost it. Now I'm drawing a blank. It was a good one too. And I was like, Kennedy Hawk said something. I was like, oh, and then now I lost it.
Well, if we're talking about defense, retaliate keyword kicks in here too, right? That retaliate is only going to trigger if Captain America has retaliate 1, he has to be the target of the attack, not one of his allies, right? So he has to be the one taking the damage or defending, exhausting to defend for that retaliate to kick off. And then I saw this come up this last weekend in the con. If the person with retaliate is defeated, the retaliate doesn't trigger because they're dead. They can't retaliate if they're dead. So
that's correct.
No zombies. So retaliate. That one is one I've seen a few times. So
I remembered the one I had, like responses and interrupts. If it doesn't say forced response or forced interrupt, it's optional and you don't have to do it. But if it is like a forced interrupt or a forced response and that triggering condition is met, you have to resolve that response or interrupt if it says it's forced. But if it doesn't say forced, it's optional.
That's your choice.
Yes, your choice.
And in general, interrupts happen right before an action. So an interrupt will say when something occurs. So it interrupts right before something. And a response is right after. So it's usually after you make an attack or after an ally is defeated. So response is usually after the triggering event. Interrupt is usually before. I say usually because there's always edge cases that do the opposite. I got 2 more if nobody else has got any.
Go for it.
Okay, I say but really we asked the Marvel Champions community Discord, hey, what are some common new player rules mistakes or things that you messed up your first couple games? And this is where we're getting this list from. So when you flip a boost card, we talked about that before, there's a thing called boost icons, and there's a thing called boost abilities. Boost icons kind of look like little triangles, or something like a triangle. That's what you're going to add to the villain's attack or scheme value to determine how hard they're scheming or attacking. A boost star ability, or a boost ability, is going to be a star symbol, and there's going to be some text on the card that says, ability, do such and such and such. You do those immediately when you flip the card, but that's the only time you read the text on the card when flipping something as a boost card. So if a boost card says, when revealed, do this thing, Since you're flipping it, not revealing it, unless it has that little star ability, you're going to ignore the card and do nothing on it and just count those triangles. So there's a distinction between boost icons and boost stars.
It's a good one. That one also trips a lot of people up. I see that one a lot on the Facebook page.
Yeah, it's a constant question. I still question it sometimes.
Yeah, I've seen too people ask, "Oh, I revealed this as a boost card. Do I do its when revealed effect?" And no, you just are looking at the stars during when it's a boost card. You're looking for the boost icons for extra points of damage, or that specialty boost ability with the little star. So if it's like Shadows of the Past, where it has just the two little triangle, you're just adding +2. You're not doing all of Shadow of the Past, because that's not the boost effect. You can just sort of ignore the rest of that card during a villain's attacker scheme when you're revealing it as a boost. So.
Thankfully.
And Kenny the Hawk, what's the timing on those boost abilities? When do I resolve them?
You flip the card. There could be responses to flipping a card at that point, and then you immediately do the boost abilities. So if there's a boost ability that says the villain gains tough, you're going to put that tough card on in the middle of the attack, so it'll trigger before you retaliate against the villain or anything like that. So it happens before you even add the boost icons. The little boost star abilities go off.
Cool.
Yeah, that can change the whole thing too, right? Because a boost effect can deal damage to a blocking minion. That blocking minion's dead now, and you don't have anyone to defend with because you tried to. So, that changes things around.
If your ally dies mid-attack, you're taking the full attack to your face. You don't get the chance to declare a new ally. One common question that I've seen, this is probably one of the most common questions, it's always embarrassing when I don't think about this one, is there's a lot of things you can do in your turn, right? You can play events, you can play cards, you can attack, you can thwart, you can flip. One thing you can do is call for an action. So you can ask another player to go do something, but there's very specific things that other player can do. They can trigger any actions of cards they have on the board. So if they have an Avengers Mansion that says exhaust me to let someone draw a card, you can say, hey, can you trigger your Avengers Mansion so I can draw a card and get resources? That's something you can do. They can play an event on your turn as long as they're in the right form. If they have a hero action and they're in hero form, you can say, hey, Steve, can you kill this guard minion so that I can go for the villain? Also legal. They cannot do like a basic attack or thwart. They cannot flip their hero. They cannot play an ally or play an upgrade. They can only play events that have the action or hero action or interrupt keyword sort of thing in them. So there's very specific things you can do on another player's turn, and those things are generally helpful. So it's important to know that other people can do things on your turn. You could also completely ignore that portion of the game, but sometimes that's fun. One thing I've seen a lot of people ask, like Captain America has this, I think it's an upgrade, Super Soldier Serum that's exhaust this to generate a resource, and it's a resource ability. That's not something you can do on someone else's turn, so you can only generate resources for yourself. So I can't say, Steve, can I use your Super Soldier Serum? But I can ask him if I can use his Avengers Mansion or his Helicarrier, which is also sort of an off-turn shareable resource.
Yeah, the other thing that you can do on another player's turn is trigger the action on an encounter card attachment that is in play. So there are some under attack, you can put out the villain gets a vibranium armor that is giving him protection effect, and it would make more sense if I could get rid of it before I start attacking, but maybe I can't because I don't have the right resources. But the other guy at the table can take that action on my turn, and anyone can trigger those effects on an encounter card attachment. I'm forgetting the name of the card exactly here. I'm just trying to think of. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Concussion Blasters. It says hero action, exhaust your hero, spend 2 energy resources to discard this card. And normally if that's attached to the villain, it gives them retaliate. So if I'm playing the leadership and I've got a bunch of allies, maybe my friend at the table can take that hero action on my turn, remove the Concussion Blasters for me. I can then use all of my basic abilities on my allies to do damage, that sort of thing. So those can be played out of turn, or on anybody's turn, as long as you meet the requirements of the card. I've seen that one come up too. People don't know that.
Right. I think there's the obligations that come with Kang. Only you can do that alter ego action, like to remove
Correct.
that obligation. You can't ask your buddy to help you out with that.
Right. Yeah. An obligation is a different card type than these attachments. An obligation, it belongs to that person. Right. It's your obligation. So, yeah, only you can trigger those.
I just know somebody screwed it up at some point. So that's me.
Yeah.
I thought I was getting called out. I was like, yeah, probably.
I might have too, but no. I've got another big one I think I've seen new players ask about. And it's what happens if the deck runs out and I'm in the middle of triggering some effect?
Ooh.
Not acceleration icons, not encounter cards being dealt to you, which also happen. But I have triggered an effect that says discard cards from a deck. Discard 10 cards or something like that. So if an effect says discard cards from the top of your deck and you run out of cards, the effect is over. It's done. You're done discarding, right? If the effect says draw cards from your deck and your deck runs out, you reshuffle, you continue to draw. So a discard effect is over with if you run out. A draw effect continues once you've reshuffled. And I think that's a big one, big important one. And that goes for both encounter cards and the player cards. I've seen that asked a lot.
Yeah, there's a couple other edge cases for that too. Like search also will not let you search into your next deck shuffle. There's some cards that'll say take the top 2 cards of the encounter deck and put them in play, engaged with you as a drone. It's an Ultron card. That one they've ruled that if there's only one card in the deck, you're not discarding cards. So you take the top card, you place an acceleration, reshuffle it, and you still take the next card. So there's all sorts of distinctions, but generally emptying a deck, there's a big question there.
That was a good one. I like that one. I don't have any other ones. I think we hit a bunch of them.
I got one left.
All right.
And this is for players who are coming from generally from Arkham or maybe a different card game. But the uses keyword, it'll say uses 3, right, and then it has a type next to it, and you put 3 universal tokens on it, and when you use up all those tokens, the card's gone, right? It gets discarded. But in some other card games, like in Arkham Horror, it will sit there. Your flashlight's dead, doesn't have any batteries left, but your flashlight's still in hand. And this game, when you've used your 3rd token off your energy barrier, the energy barrier gets discarded. So they don't stick around, they don't get recharged somehow. So that's an interesting one too. I think it's important for players coming from a different card game into this one.
Heroes just throw their trash everywhere. Used flashlights, whatever.
Now there are some cards coming that will use counters that don't have uses. I think in Galaxy's Most Wanted, Rocket has a particle cannon that we saw from a stream that enters play with 2 charge counters but does not have uses, so it will not be discarded. So you got to look for that uses keyword. That's what makes it discard.
Yeah, that's like Iron Fist, right? He has
exactly.
Yeah, he has his little cheat tokens or whatever, but they're not a uses.
So. Right, and the Hawkeye, Clint Barton ally, same deal.
Thing. Yep.
If that's it for common mistakes, do we want to hit this one that you suggested, Kennedy Hawk, that you added a late submission for topics?
I added something. Oh, component upgrades.
Yes.
So yeah, I can do a little spiel on this. So this game is one of my favorite games, right? And it comes with these pretty sturdy but still not super great cardboard tokens for tracking damage on minions and uses counters and all sorts of things. And it comes with life dials for your hero. There's a ton of options out there for upgrading your game. So just some of the big ones. Buy the Same Token has an Etsy store where you can get boards and little health tokens to chip into your hero to really bullying out your game. They're super satisfying. When you push it into the little board, it makes the clicking noise, kind of like the Switch does when you put your controllers into it. So it's super like pleasing to the ear. Team Covenant has a similar set of boards. They're slightly different. One of the token sets fits into the other one, but they're not like designed to be compatible. So you usually pick like one system and focus on it. I think those are two of the big ones. There's a blog called Make Your Piece Games, which we might mention later, but they've got a really good guide on how to take just your cardboard tokens and use some supplies from a craft store to make them look like really fancy looking, shiny, like acrylic-y tokens. And I really enjoy doing that. They use some Mod Podge and some other things to really make the tokens stand out at the table, which can be really enjoyable. It also gives them a little bit more life. Your cardboard's not peeling if you use your tokens a lot, or if you're one of those people like me that has, a nervous tick of shuffling their cards or like juggling tokens in their hand. You're not constantly ripping your tokens apart. The components are like very sturdy, so you don't have to worry about it too much, but there's a ton of blinging you can do with this game. So on the Discord server, there's a pretty good link that contains like a ton of different custom component upgrades that you can look into. I definitely recommend checking it out. I've tried a ton of them. The ones I use the most are the buy the same tokens and the Team Covenant ones, but it's really just a personal preference of like how thematic and how immersive you want your tokens to be versus boring old tokens like other people use.
Cool. Steve, yeah. Do you have the cardboard ones, or did you buy some
I'm still
stuff?
using the ones that came in the core set. And if I've seen the other upgrade is storage solutions, right? You can get the broken token cases with the artist case, or I've seen cool 3D printed stuff. Right now, as of this recording, if you have the core and you have Red Skull, there's enough room in those two boxes to put everything in nice and neat and be okay. Not necessarily with the inserts that come with it, but there's room in those two boxes for all your stuff. I'll see if I can find it. I have a 3D printed insert for both of those boxes, and everything fits nice and neat. They got little trays to put your tokens in. Eventually here, pretty soon, you're going to, there's going to be more cards than fit in those boxes. So we'll see what happens, but that's the thing. And that's with the cards sleeved. So they do fit right now.
I'll be honest, I bought one of those like Etsy storage boxes, like a large one. And there's plenty of room in it, but I was kind of disappointed with it. I think if I had to do it again, I would just buy like one of those like 4-row like white boxes I can get at my game shop for like $2, and just like make an insert for that, I think. But that's just me.
Yeah, there's a lot of choices out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still using the cardboard tokens. My one big upgrade was I got some business card holders, and I set the villain up on the business card holders.
I have the little tiny easels.
Ooh, yeah.
Which I seem to keep finding in my house. I didn't buy them; they're just here. I don't know if I'm stealing them from my wife's crafts or something. I don't know where they came from, but
what is going on at those Boy Scout meetings?
That's right. Got all these little easels, but they work great. Those work good too. So
cool. That's it for component. What do you got?
Can we go back? I know we just moved on, but can we go back? There's one more new player thing. I think that's very helpful.
Yes, go for it.
If a character, a hero or a villain, has a stun or confused, the stun or the confused takes absolute precedence over everything else. It says they get to an attack. Nope, you have to remove the stun. It's over and done with, right? Confused stops the thwart or the scheme. That's first. That can sometimes throw people off. You don't get to trigger the attack at all, so things like Rhino's charge don't come off. You don't get any after the attack effects or any in the middle of an attack effects, or Spider-Man's thing gets to trigger because they never get to attack you. Stun, confused. That's the end all and be all, right? So.
Yep. And I will piggyback off that again. Spider-Man has a card webbed up, where you place the card like on the villain. If that villain is already stunned, once again the stun happens first. So you can have this cool thing where you stun the villain, web them up, and then the stun will come off one attack, the webbed up the next, and then a stun token gets put on again for the second part of webbed up. So you can block 3 attacks that way if you do it right.
We just did that last night. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Webbed up's such a cool card.
If you're looking at the RRG for where that is, that's because those status conditions are replacement effects, and replacement effects sort of like replace an entire effect that's happening. So the reason like no after attacks or when attacks triggers occur is because the attack completely didn't happen. It was completely replaced by removing the stun cover.
And if there's multiple replacement effects that like happen at the same time, the most recent replacement effect is the one that you use. So they have that caveat in there. I don't think I've came across that yet, but there you go. Do you guys? All right. So we did the component thing. I guess we'll do our tips, our individual tips for newer players. Steve, I think this is a good one for you to start with. We'll go around. We'll each give like 1 or 2 at a time. Just go around, round table it.
My gameplay tips, just generic, general tips for new player.
Yep.
Read the card every time. This is a good tip for veteran players too, because sometimes we think a card does what we think it does, and it doesn't actually do that. I've been, on occasion, you read it once or twice and you think you've got it, and then you remember it next time, but you remember it a little bit wrong. So I think reading the card, I know that seems kind of maybe condescending or pretty basic, but just take your time. The first few games, it's no rush. Read the card. If you have to stop and check a rule, stop and check a rule. And then try to resolve that card. But also, you need to be aware of everything else that's out there. The core is not too bad, but as you get going, there can be a lot of things in play. Don't be afraid to pause and say, oh, I can also do this, or oh, I have to do this because there's a forced effect. So take a look around the table, look at your player area, look at the villain's area, and make sure that you're not missing something, that you didn't forget there's an acceleration token on the board. So that be aware of what's going on. Read that card, read the other cards on the table, go back and look at them. Because there can be, especially in a 4-player game, there can be a lot of triggers or effects or things that can be done out of order if you're playing multiplayer and you have something that needs to be handled, like a retaliate, to get pulled off. Don't be afraid to ask, can somebody handle this? I plan to be able to do this. This game has no table talk rules. You can talk to your partner as much as you want. You can say, I'm going to do 3 damage to this guy. Can somebody do 1 more? Oh, great. That's going to take care of that. Some of the other LCGs by Fantasy Flight Games, you're not supposed to talk to each other. You're not supposed to tell them what's in your hand. This one doesn't have that rule. You're a superhero team, so be a team. Work together. Play as optimized as you can, but don't get too caught up in that whole like mathing it out. I think sometimes you want to, but you don't need to get frozen with the math. I think that's the other one. So read the cards, be aware of what's on the table, and just have some fun. Have fun. There you go.
Have fun was mine. You can't take have fun. You got to come up with another one.
Oh, have a darn tootin' good time.
All right, I'll take it.
Okay.
I was gonna say for my tips, this game is a lot of fun, playing solo. But if you can, try to play multiplayer, because that's where this game really shines, in my opinion. If you can get 2, 3, 4 people together to take on Rhino, it's a blast when you have all the aspects and multiple heroes and you're talking together. That's the biggest point I wanted to make out of this part, was don't be afraid to talk, right? Like Steve said, there's no table talk rule. Like sometimes if you're playing a multiplayer game, I see people there's not a lot of interaction. They're bored in a 4-player game when they're the last person going. Well, I mean, like you guys, when I'm playing multiplayer games, I'm talking, trying to figure out what are you gonna do, what's the other guy gonna do, what do I have, how can I help them? Like there's lots of table talk going on, to figure out what like the plan of action is. And that's all part of having the fun. I think this game really shines in multiplayer, so I'd say try to get in some multiplayer games if you can. This game is fun solo, but it really shines in multiplayer. Don't be afraid to talk to people. Don't be afraid to ask questions. On Discord, there's a great rules channel. There's a lot of good people on Facebook that are good about answering the same question over and over again. So don't be afraid to ask questions. And have fun. You got any, Dan?
Yeah, first on the talking thing, we do a lot of villain trash talks. That's one way to be really immersive with this game. I have one group of people that likes to play this game, and we'll play our heroes in character. So you'll try to like crack Spider-Man puns while you're playing as Spider-Man. That can be really fun. So get immersed. I've got 3 tips for getting you to win more games faster as a new player. So one thing I struggled with when I started playing this game, and a lot of the other LCGs and games I play, resources are very valuable. I might have to save up for multiple turns to play a 4 or 5 cost card. In this game, every card in your hand is a resource, and you're going to draw up to your hand size at the end of every turn. So every time you hold on to a card, you're basically wasting a resource. So with Spider-Man, I might draw 2 swinging web kicks, and they both cost 3, so I can only play one of them. And I would hold on to the second one because I really want to play it in the next turn because it does a lot of damage. But I could have just played something else with that card and drawn up to my full hand size again next turn. So every time you're not using one of those cards, it's a resource you're holding back. There are some exceptions, right? There's cards you might hold in your hand because they let you do something on the villain turn, or they're like really important to your next turn. Those should be like the rare cases rather than like the common case of holding cards in your hand. When you run out of cards in your deck, you're not out of the game. You're just going to reshuffle your deck and draw more cards. There's a little bit of a penalty for it, but burning through your deck fast far outweighs the penalty you're going to get for decking out. So I think play out your entire hand every turn. Make sure you spend all your resources. And if you're going to hold on to a card because you have the option to discard at the end of your turn, you better play it in that next turn or you're going to feel really bad for wasting a resource. My second biggest tip for people, and this is something that took me a long time to learn, is to spend more time in hero form, which is kind of a bummer because in this game, one of the most fun mechanics is that you get to flip from hero to alter ego. You really capture like both sides of a superhero's identity. But by staying in hero form longer, you're removing one of those loss conditions. You're not letting the villain scheme and put threat onto the main scheme. So the longer you can stay in hero form, the easier your game is going to be. So make it so you stay in hero form for a couple turns, you flip down and heal up and draw a really big hand, you go back to hero form and stay for a couple turns. That's really going to increase how often you're winning. And then the last tip I had is to find the turning point in the game. So a lot of times you try to do a bunch of damage right away to the villain, but that's not always the best way to win a game of Marvel Champions. It might be for an aggression player, but for a well-rounded game, I would say what you want to do is build your board state at the beginning of the game, get a safety net going, get a couple upgrades out, get a couple allies out, sort of build yourself up to be the superhero that you expect to be. And there's going to be some point in the game where you can focus less on being defensive and building and making sure you don't lose and focus more on punching the villain. So it's different with each villain and each hero and each combination and each player with how you build your decks. But you're going to find eventually there's this sweet spot where you go from focusing on side schemes and minions and controlling the board to really focusing on your win condition, which is defeating the villain. So sort of try to find that turning point by playing the game a lot. And eventually once you find it, it'll be really fun to declare like, all right, we're going for the villain. We're ignoring everything else. So that's what we do at least.
Yeah, us too. There's a point when you flip to that second villain, whichever stage it is, 2 or 3, and you stabilize, you set up, and it's like, oh, he's got 60 health. Can we do that? Should we keep doing what we've been doing, or should we just go for it? And then all of a sudden he's down to 20. You're like, yeah, okay, that was the right move, and we can take him out next round. So finding that tipping point is pretty key. I agree with you too on the cards in hand. Like if you hold on to a card, and there are some cards you want to hold on to now and then, maybe Ant-Man's helmet or a shield block or something that's really important. But if you held on to your Avengers Mansion and then you don't play it, and then you hold on to it again and you don't play it, like you need to rethink that strategy. You need to just play it. You need to be able to let cards go because you know it might come back around and there's other cards and you'll get to it eventually and maybe it'll maybe you'll be getting something else more if that will help you more if you can just let go of that card. You got to be able to let go of that card. It's not the same as some other card games where you're drawing one card a turn, or it costs you an action to draw a card or something like that.
Right, I agree with all those. Those are all good tips and points. So I guess we'll move on to the last part of the new player extravaganza. It's getting pretty late. We'll try to do this quick and wrap it up. Other resources or content creators to check out. Obviously, you're listening to this side scheme, and I would highly recommend the Marvel Champions Monthly podcast, the Critical Encounters podcast, the Alter Egos podcast. Hall of Heroes is a great website that has a list of resources on their own that you can find all kinds of stuff. Any other resources you guys want to mention here?
Hall of Heroes LCG.com. That's pretty good. And MarvelCDB.com. That's where you can find your deck building. But the other podcast I would suggest too, if you're a player of the other LCGs as well, is Card Game Cooperative. Those guys, they do all three. So it's not Marvel focused, but they do Marvel content. And they do Lord of the Rings and they do Arkham Horror. So you kind of can get a perspective on all three of the games if you're coming from those games as well. They're fun to listen to. A couple other interesting ones out there too. Tabletop Time Sinks, 1-2 Punch Board. They seem to be popular sites, right? I hear that the Side Scheme has a blog. They put content out.
Huh, yeah. No one asked for it. You get it anyway.
Get it anyways.
One website you should check out is superhumanregistrationact.com. A lot of people ask, hey, how do you track your play logs? How do you get statistics on what heroes you're playing? A community member put this together. It's free. You just register for an account. You can log every game you play, whether it's solo or multiplayer. You put in what encounter set, what difficulty level, what modular set. You put in what heroes were played with what aspects, and it saves all that into a play log for you. You can pull statistics for the whole community, like how does Spider-Man do as Justice versus how I do as Justice, and just catalog just how much Marvel Champions you end up playing, embarrassingly. So it's a really cool website that they're continually adding features to. So it's really, really neat.
This is brand new to me. I'm excited for this. I did not know about it.
I'm going to use it. Can you send me the link, please?
Yeah. And I think
I'll list it.
Another good option is there's 900 plus YouTube channels out there, people playing games, making content. If you want to watch a game, you can just Google, Marvel Champions LCG or search it on YouTube or look at the list on Hall of Heroes. There's a ton of different options out there, and watch someone else play. And that can give you some hints on how to play it as well. It's not always perfect, right? We've twitched a few games and we make a mistake here or there, so you have to be aware of that. Nobody's perfect on their YouTube games, but it can really help you see the flow of the game, understand where cards are going or when they're coming out, the timing of stuff, and maybe answer another question that we didn't get to by watching someone play, watching a multiplayer game, that sort of thing.
Dale the Casual Gamer is the one on YouTube I would recommend. He does a good job talking through everything, and the cards are easy to read and see. He kind of shows the camera the cards as he's talking about playing it. I think that's probably a good one for newer players.
Highly recommended. And if you have a question about why he made a decision, if you put it in the YouTube comments, he almost always responds and rewatches his video to explain his thought process. Really awesome guy.
Cool. You guys got anything else for resources?
That's it.
All right, we will skip Flame On for now due to time of day it is. So that's it. I want to thank my wife for dealing with me recording. I want to thank all three of our listeners because we got a new one from Scotland. So shout out. Thank all the patrons for sticking with us for the limited amount of content we produce. And appreciate all of you. Thank to Kennedy Hawk and Vardane for joining me tonight and filling in for Tommy. I'll give you guys each a soapbox to say anything you want to say here at the end.
I want to say that it takes two of us to fill his gigantic shoes. So
It did. It's true. And I think the three listeners were two of them. So it's just that Scotland guy right now.
Yeah, that's it.
No, thanks for having us on. This was great. I hope people find this very useful.
That's the goal.
Yep, I had a good time. Thanks.
Yep, and be sure to check out Critical Encounters and Marvel Champions Monthly. I will have links in the show notes. Also, the Superhuman Registration Act I'll have in the show notes, as well as hallofheroeslcg.com. For all you guys, thanks for being here, and stay scheming, champions.
Dance off, bro. Me and you.
See, that wasn't so bad. I thought we were going to suck.